This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, hi everyone. This is our last session on the subject of war, terror, and security in halacha. And this subject is women and weapons. It begins with the pasuk in Chumash and Parshas Kiseitze, Lo yia chli gever alisha, v'lo yilbash gever simlas isha. Ki sayavas Hashem koloi seyela. A woman cannot wear men's garb. A man cannot wear the clothing of a woman. It's an abomination of Hashem. Says Targum, La yehi tikun zain digvar al itza, v'lo yisakin gvar b'sikune itza. What that means is a woman cannot carry weapons. So it's not just women cannot wear men's clothing. The pasuk in Chumash is not just saying women cannot wear men's clothing. What does it mean? What are men's clothing? Aside from women cannot wear clothing that are specifically designated as the style and custom of man and vice versa, a man would not be able to wear a woman's clothing. But the Targum says specifically the men's garb that a woman cannot wear is that a woman cannot bear arms. In fact, the Gemara says in Masechta Nazir, if you have Marmakom, it's probably on page 2 for you or page 50 for the men. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Minayin shaloi seitze isha b'chli zayin l'machama. How do we know a woman cannot go out with weapons to war? Talmud loymar lo yia kli gever al isha, v'lo yilbash gever simlas isha, shalo yisakin ish b'tikune isha. From here we learn that a woman cannot go out with weapons. Says Rashi, what's the source of this? Where do we find this? Rashi says, V'zeh shamatzinu b'Yael eshes chever hakeni. We find by Yael, when she killed the general, Shaloi haragatoi l'Sisra b'chli zayin. Yael did not kill Sisra with weapons. Ela k'may shenemar, Yada liyasei tishlachna. She sent forth her hand to the peg. How did Yael kill Sisra? Did she use a sword? Did she use a gun? Did she use a spear? The pasuk says she took the peg of a tent, took a hammer in her hand, came to him stealthily, drove the peg El Rakasai into his temple. Rabbi Kiva Eger on Rashi quotes the Medrash in the Yalkut Shemaini that the pasuk says that she stretched forth her hand to the spindle, meaning to Kli Isha, is referring to Yael, that when Yael killed, she did not kill with a weapon, instead she killed with a peg. Okay, so this is pretty clear. A woman is not allowed to bear arms. It's a violation of Alav, Loi Silbash Isha Bigdei Ish. Okay. What about, though, if it's Milchemes Mitzvah? What is Milchemes Mitzvah? Milchemes Mitzvah are to fight against the Zayin Amamin, the 7 nations, which maybe would not apply today. Maybe we can't identify the Zayin Amamin. But the Rambam also defines Milchemes Mitzvah as Milchama Haba L'Yisrael Le'ezras Miyad Sar, in order to defend the Jewish people from attack, from distress. Are the wars in Israel today Milchemes Mitzvah? Probably, likely. I mean, what else are they? Is it protecting? It's the defense of the Jewish people. Presumably it's a Milchemes Mitzvah. Would a woman be allowed to fight in a Milchemes Mitzvah with weapons? Now, comes the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzvah Taf Reish Gimel. I guess page 4. Maybe I should get one of your booklets. The Sefer HaChinuch, in speaking about the war against Amalek, says who's supposed to fight the war against Amalek. Yeah, this is page 4 or page 52. The Sefer HaChinuch says, Noiheges mitzazu b'chal makom v'chal zman b'zachar. This mitzvah applies at all time and in all places to men. Ki lahem lasos hamilchama v'nikmas ha'oyev. Because men are the ones who go to war and take revenge against the enemy. V'loy l'nashim, not women. Women don't go to war. So the Sefer HaChinuch says the war against Amalek is for men and not for women. Comes the Minchas Chinuch, and the Minchas Chinuch says that the Sefer HaChinuch exempts women from the war against Amalek. So the Minchas Chinuch asks, why would they be exempt? Is this the mitzvah saseh shazman grama? This is not governed by time. The war against Amalek could be at any time, especially when this is associated with a lav of loy tishkach.
Why can't we say
what does it say?
It says,
okay, that's specifically referring to the war against. That's specifically referring to that narrative in the Chumash when they came out of Mitzrayim and they encountered Amalek. So the pasuk says, what's the lashon of the pasuk? So there it says anoshim, men, but that's not the mitzvah of mechias Amalek. The mitzvah is timcha as zeicha Amalek loy tishkach. That mitzvah was not only said to men as excluding women. The Minchas Chinuch disagrees with the Sefer Chinuch based on the following Gemara. The Gemara tells us that that b'melchemes mitzvah hakol yoitzin afilu Kallah mechupasa. When it comes to a mitzvah war, everyone goes out to war, even a Kallah from the chuppah. A Kallah is a woman. So that indicates that when it comes to war, melchemes mitzvah, even women go to war. So the opinion of Minchas Chinuch is that women would go out to Milchama. Now this is very important. Take a look in the Gemara in Saita, Daf Mem Daled Amud Beis. It's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says on the fourth line, I guess this is page... This is back to page 3. Ba'medva ma'amuram b'melchemes reshus, ava b'melchemes mitzvah, hakol yoitzen, afilu chasan mechedrai, v'kala mechupasa. So what does that mean? What's the woman going out of her chuppah to do? Presumably she's going out of the chuppah to go to war. So that would indicate, even though normally a woman's not to bear arms, but if it's a melchemes mitzvah, she would be allowed to. And there would seem to be a very compelling logic to that. Why would she be allowed to? Why would she be allowed to? After all, what about the lav of loy silbash isha b'gdei asay doichalois asay? You have a mitzvah of melchemes mitzvah. Should that push off loy silbash? Or perhaps pikuach nefashos, to save other Jews. That should also push off loy silbash. So the opinion of the Minchas Chinuch is based on the Gemara that everybody goes out to melchemes mitzvah chasam mechupasai v'kala mechadra. That would show that a woman would go to war. However, the Rashash says that this is not a compelling raya at all. Take a look in the Rashash. I guess the Rashash is on page 53 or page 5. The Rashash where my arrow is. V'ulai einon yoitzois elo levashel v'le'afois. You know what it means? The woman leaves her chuppah. It means she leaves the chuppah to go cook for the men who are fighting the war. Not that a woman is allowed to bear arms, not that she's allowed to fight. It means she leaves the chuppah to help out at the war front. What is her contribution? Her contribution are the domain that she could be involved in. But that doesn't show that she's allowed to bear arms. Likewise, the Radvaz in his commentary to the Rambam, the Radvaz is troubled. What does it mean that a Kallah goes out mechupasa or mechadra? What about the idea kol kvuda bas melech panima? What about the dignity of a woman is not in a public arena? So he says, all the Gemara says is yotzei chasan mechedrai v'kala mechupasa. She leaves the chuppah. What does that mean? That means she no longer observes 7 days of mishteh, but it doesn't mean she goes out to fight the war, the Radvaz says. Or it means that they supply food and mayim to the men who are fighting. As v'chein haminag hayon ba'arvayos, as is the minhag in the Arabian countries, That's what the Arabs do. The women do not go out to war, but they supply food and nourishment for the men. So it seems that there's a machlokes. Can a woman be involved in Milchemes Mitzvah? The Minchas Chinuch does not seem to have a problem with it. However, the Rashash and the Radvaz say that the Gemara that says that a Kallah goes out mechupasa is not compelling. Doesn't mean she goes out to fight. She goes out to do those activities that she is permitted to do. Halacha l'maisa. Can a woman fight and bear arms?
What does it say? Are we talking about here that there's enough men without women, or they need the women to help? Why there's not enough men? So you need women to help.
You want to know? Let's talk about if they want to join the army. If they want to join, they would take them.
Yes, nowadays no case to join the army. They because they need people. Not enough men.
Whoever is in the army, they need them. Whoever applies to fight, they need those people. You want to know if it's a matter of pikuach nefashos, is it different? We're going to see. For now, let's assume that if they don't join, someone else will join. We'll talk about both scenarios. We'll talk about where we do need them. We'll talk about if we don't need them. Halacha l'maisa. Are they allowed to bear arms to fight in a war, bizman hazeh, which presumably and reasonably is considered Milchemes Mitzvah? The opinion of Tzitz Eliezer is they cannot. Woman is not allowed to. If you take a look on page 8, in the bigger booklets, it's on page 56, Ois Gimel, in the Tzitz Eliezer, Lamadnu mikol ha'amar, that the Isser of Leisilbash, of bearing arms, has two categories. Number one, Isser Nesias Klei Zayin L'isha, bearing arms for a woman. And number two, even going out to war. Both of those activities, either for a woman to carry a rifle, or not to carry a rifle and to go out to war, is considered a violation of La'yia Kli Gever Alisha. Now, V'lamanu gam zois sho isru hu gam afilu kisham milchama hi milchemes mitzvah v'chayva. And it does not matter if it's a Milchemes Mitzvah, it doesn't matter if it's a Milchemes Chayva. Because when Yael killed Sisera, that was also Milchemes Mitzvah, that was also Milchemes Chayva. And yet, she made sure not to use her rifle and not to use her sword, but to take out a peg and to take out a hammer and kill him that way. So, what? No, the general was still there. I mean, she's accredited with saving the Jewish people. That means it was still, quote unquote, Shas Milchama. That was the war against the Zayin Amamin. So that war is never over. As long as they're there, that war is still going. What about Yehudis? I mean, what did she do? How did she kill him? She killed him with a sword? So first of all, the story of Yehudis is not recorded in Tanakh, right? So, was she allowed to do that? Now, it's interesting. Would a woman, to save the Jewish people, be allowed to take a sword? I don't know. And we don't even say about Yael that we praise her. What do you mean we praise her? She wouldn't have been allowed to do otherwise. So it sounds like even Yael herself, if she would have taken a sword, maybe we wouldn't have criticized her, but it's considered praiseworthy that she went out of her way to use a peg and a hammer. What would have been would she have been allowed to use a sword? Now, not every woman is going to have a peg and hammer available at all times, you know. We're going to talk about that. In other words, Yehudis, I think, decapitated the Eli Forno, you know, the general. We're going to come to that very soon. The opinion of the Tzitz Eliezer is that a woman may not fight as part of a war in Milchemes Rishus and Milchemes Mitzvah, and that would not be permitted. By the way, that is also the halachic ruling of Harav Avigdor Neben Zal, the Rav of the Old City. It's printed in Techumin, in the 5th volume. It's not on your sheets, page 364, because Techumin is not available, not on Oitzah Chachma, and not on HebrewBooks.org. I'll read to you what he writes. He says, there were 2 different times that Klal Yisrael were commanded to be counted before entering Eretz Yisrael and fighting the the 7 nations. The first time is when we left Eretz Yisrael in the war against Amalek. Like Rabbi Yehuda pointed out, there specifically it says, B'char lanu anoshim, there it was specifically men. Every time the Jewish people were counted before they went to war, they only counted the men and not the women. Why? Because the count was for war, which indicated that every time they went to war, even Mechemes Mitzvah, it was only the men who went to war. Historically, in the times of the Chashmonaim, in terms of Bar Kochva, women did not fight in either war. Women did not join either war. And therefore, Rabbi Victor Nebenzal says, his psak is, women may not bear arms and fight in even Melchemes Mitzvah. Why not? Why don't we say, Aseh doich halois aseh? That's the question. If Melchemes Mitzvah is a mitzvah, why wouldn't we say, Aseh doich halois aseh? So there's a very important dimension over here of what the principle of lo yilbash gever simlas isha is. What's the rationale behind this mitzvah? If you take a look in Rashi, back on the first page of Mar Mekayimos, is what's the reason that a woman is not allowed to wear men's clothing or bear arms? Rashi says, Shetehei doime leish, kedei shetelech ben ha'anoshim, she'ein zu ela l'shem niyaf. That the prohibition of wearing the opposite gender's garb, including bearing arms, is because then it will cause the ability to mingle among the other gender, and it could lead to immorality. Which means that for a woman to bear arms is what we call abuzrayu de arayos. It's, so to speak, the dust of immorality. If it's the dust of immorality, we would never say aseh doich halois aseh. Aseh can't push away gilui arayos. Moreover, even if it means defending Jewish life, even if it means defending life, you could make the case it would still not be permitted, because the lav of lois silbash is not just a regular lav. It's what we call abuzrayu de arayos. It is the dust of immorality. In such a case, we would not say aseh doich halois aseh, and it would not be permitted even b'makom pikuach nefashos. So this is just by way of introduction. So let's come to the shaila that Rav Moshe Feinstein was asked. He was asked this question by his grandson-in-law, Rabbi Shapsi Rappaport, about Yishuvim in Gush Etzion, where it was a frightful location. There were always snipers there, there were always terrorists there, and when Moros wanted to travel to the Moshav, their lives were in danger, and even if their lives weren't in danger, they could have been harmed and they could have been hurt. And the question is, are they allowed to carry arms in self-defense? Okay? So now, we've already established, can a woman carry arms to fight in a war? No. She can't do it. That's how the Tzitz Eliezer paskins, that's what Rabbi Victor Nebenzal paskins, even Melchemes Mitzvah. Even though, again, the Minchas Chinuch seems to say they could, but la halacha, the poskim say no. But can a woman carry arms in self-defense? This is a very practical question, because this is not only a question Gush Etzion, this is a question in today's climate. A woman is traveling in a neighborhood, she feels uncomfortable. Can she carry mace? Could she carry a knife? Is it permitted? Or is it a lav? And is it abuzrai da'arayos? Is there a difference between war and self-defense? What should the difference be? If a woman can't carry weapons, she can't carry weapons. If she could, she could. So Rabbi Rappaport suggests, based on the Taz and the Bach, who say as follows, that the Rishonim tell us something very interesting. That if a woman wanted to put on the clothing of a man to resemble a man, or for a man to wear the clothing of a woman to resemble a woman, if you're doing it for beauty or adornment, any kishutim you can't wear. So, for example, if a woman, okay, this is dangerous, but if a man wanted to wear a beautiful sheitel to look good, that would be prohibited. If a woman wanted to wear, help me out over here, what? A tool belt. A tool belt. It would be prohibited. However, that's only if it's an item of beauty or adornment. But if you wanted to wear something to protect yourself from a sun or the cold, it's freezing outside. It's freezing. And you want to put on your husband's New York Giants hat to keep warm. Are you allowed to wear it? You could wear it. Because it's not adornment, it's to protect yourself from the cold. You wanted to wear a woman's raincoat because it's pouring outside. You're stuck at a kiddush, there are no shena coats left. There's a woman's shena coat. It's not such a big difference whether a strammel shena coat or a shaitel shena coat. A shena coat is a shena coat. Are you allowed to wear a woman's shena coat? Could a woman wear a man's shena coat? There's Taz and Shach and Tasim to say you could. You get the difference? For adornment, you can't. If it's an item of a kishut, an accessory, you can't. To protect from the elements, you could. So Rabbi Rappaport suggests to his grandfather, Moshe Feinstein, that a weapon is not an adornment, it's not an accessory, it's to protect from the elements. So it should be permitted. Rabbi Moshe said, no, you made a mistake. Weapons are, a woman is now to bear arms, not because it's the accessory of a man, listen carefully. Women are now to bear arms because aside from the fact that a man can't wear a woman's garment and vice versa, a woman is not allowed to bear arms, period, because it's the derech of men to bear arms. It's not the derech of women to bear arms. It's the derech of a man to go to war. It's not the derech of a woman to go to war. So it's not incorporated in the prohibition of a woman wearing and using a man's accessory. It's a separate prohibition by itself, that it's not the derech of women to engage in the activity of warfare. It's not the derech of a woman to utilize arms. So it should be prohibited, says Rav Moshe, for a woman to carry a weapon in self-defense. But there's a very important distinction, because it's not the manner of a woman to go to war, because it's not a woman's kind of activity. But for self-defense, there's no difference between self-defense of a man and a woman. War is not a woman's activity. Self-defense is a human activity. And therefore, Moshe said, women are allowed to bear arms in self-defense. You hear that, Lamdas? So Moshe says, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef wrote a tshuva, saying no. The reason a woman is not allowed to bear arms is because it's typically because it's a men's accessory. But if you're doing it not as an accessory and not to go to war, but you're doing it to protect yourself from the elements, then it's like a raincoat or a winter coat where it's permitted. But in any event, there's a Sefer Baruch Omer that says that according to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, that you're allowed to do it to protect yourself from the elements. The woman should not carry the gun in a holster on her belt. She should carry it in her pocketbook. Because still, you want to indicate you're not carrying it as a men's accessory. You don't want to wear it as a men's accessory. You want to do it, carry it just for self-defense, so don't carry it in the manner that a man would carry it. Okay. Could a woman work as a security guard?
What about a pink gun?
A pink gun?
Being made for women.
There's no such thing. No. Now, by the way, I want to bring up another point. Okay, could a woman work as a security guard? A pink gun? No. The fact that you color it pink. No. That doesn't make it woman's. The color doesn't change the definition of it. No. Because then you could think of any manner of clothing that men wear. If you make it pink, it's still a man's clothing. Could a woman get a job as a security guard? What do you think? Could a woman get a job as a security guard? Again, it's not warfare. Is that self-defense? Is that warfare? Is it derech of a woman? Is it not derech of a woman? So in Tchumen, Rabbi Yehuda Gershuni says it's prohibited. Woman's not to carry a weapon, even if she's not going to mingle with men, because it could lead her to mingle with men and to go to war, and therefore a woman cannot get a job as a security guard. Rav Mordechai Gross, and I think I have this on the sheets. Here, let's take a look. Page 65 in the men's booklet. I made two different booklets. Why? Because the derech of men to have booklets for Yarchei Kallah. So I made a separate booklet.
Is it the omnis would be a different issur or the same? Like it wasn't put
Again, according to Tzitz Eliezer, he broke it down into two. One is carrying the weapon, and one in going out to war. So for the woman to carry the gun, or to get the job as a security guard, maybe either element could be somewhat of a problem. So take a look on page 65, or in the women's booklet. Let's see. That's page 17. He says, Nishalti, Mimar tzedek shenishal meisha balas tshuva she'ein la parnasa v'roitza liyos ma'av tachat. I guess that means security guard. Okay? So you have a woman, she can't get a job. She's looking for a job, and there's a wonderful opening as a security guard. Tonight at the Shiur, if you want to make a public Shiur in Panama, you need to have security. You need to have heavy security. So in front of the Shiur tonight, there are going to be tanks, there are going to be hundreds of security guards. Can a woman get a job as a security guard? He says, Hinei ledas rabim nesias kli neshek leisha have isura de lo yobash. According to many, for a woman to carry arms is an isur of lo yobash. The efsher de bezeh leka inyan de anoshim v'nashim na'agu bezeh the leka lo yobash. He argues that being a security guard is not considered violation of lo yobash. But he says, perhaps you could argue that since it's for self-defense, there's not an isser of lo yobash. Meaning he's trying to, I think he's adopting the svara that Rabbi Moshe said, and maybe he's extrapolating, that for a woman to go to war, that's not the derech of a woman. For her to carry arms in war, that's not the derech of a woman. Therefore, it would be prohibited. But if it's a matter of self-defense, Rabbi Moshe says, self-defense is universal. So security, war is sort of a men's domain. Security is more of a universal need. He does bring some basis that if this was her only source of livelihood, she would be able to do this. So the bottom line is, halacha l'maisa, most poskim say that a woman would not be able to bear arms in terms of being a soldier. She would be able to bear arms or carry items that could defend her in a situation of self-defense. To be a security guard, that's something that is somewhat questionable. Okay, there's another whole topic that we're not going to have time for, and you could do your own research and your own limud. That topic is really an amazing topic, maybe next year. And that is the subject of, are you allowed to violate malachos on Shabbos to evacuate and identify bodies? Now, what would the basis of being able to do that? Why would you be allowed to be machal Shabbos? The body is dead already. The body is dead. Now, this is a very important factor. This might have been the most interesting topic of all. And that is the idea that when soldiers see a dead body, or when anyone sees a dead body, it's traumatic. And it weakens their morale. And it could be a matter of pikuach nefashos. And this gets into the whole subject of, are you allowed to be machal Shabbos if somebody is suffering mental anguish? Is that pikuach nefashos? And maybe 50 years ago, nobody would have even entertained the possibility that you could be Machal Shabbos. But in our times, unfortunately, we see the deep trauma that people have from mental anguish, and there might be very legitimate basis to be Machal Shabbos, to evacuate a body in order to strengthen people's morale. The morale of soldiers, the morale of even people in Israel, who when they hear that their loved ones, their bodies are unattended to on the war front, it could take their lives. It could literally cost people their lives. So I recommend, I suggest you learn through some of the Ma'amar. It's a very interesting topic. All of these 4 subjects appear very extensively in the Sfarim of Rabbi Tzvi Reisman, in Sefer Ratz Katzvi, volume Ishmochama, Ratz Katzvi, Refuah, where these topics are discussed extensively. And we should be zoicha that in the merit of learning about these subjects, Hashem should be mevarech us with nitzachain and shalom al Yisrael. Amen. Thank you very much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.